Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. In today's installment of the Kill Count, I will be covering X-Men, written by both Tom DeSanto and Bryan Singer, and just directed by Bryan Singer. Ladies and gentlemen, we have finally reached the X-Men movies produced by Fox. Fox X-Men movies are some of the biggest superhero movies in history. These movies, along with a few others, paved the way for the MCU and future superhero installments, and solidified superhero movies as actual contenders for good storytelling in cinema. What is that story exactly? Well, the main plot follows the Brotherhood of Mutants trying to track down an incredibly powerful mutant that will help them enact their plan. I'm not going to tell you their plans yet, though, for suspense. Well, on the other side, Charles Xavier, who is an incredibly powerful mutant, is trying to stop these mutants with the help of his superhero team. I want to keep the introduction short and get into the movie and explain a lot of things as we go along. So with that, let's get into the movie. The movie begins in Poland of 1944 with a long line of people, likely of the Jewish race or religion, being forced to a death camp, likely Auschwitz. In 1944, Poland contained the highest number of concentration camps, with Auschwitz being the most infamous of the bunch due to the high death count of around 1.1 million people killed by so many means. 35,000 prisoners were forced to work at Auschwitz, and 23,000 of them, or 32 a day on average, were killed simply due to malnourishment, disease, and overworking. Auschwitz was also infamous for being the biggest concentration camp by a long shot. The entire Auschwitz compound was 40 square kilometers, or 15.5 miles, and fit over 40 camps inside the massive compound. Alright, enough about Auschwitz. You came here for X-Men, and I don't want to talk about the Holocaust the entire time. Among this massive group of people is a young boy named Eric Lenscher and his parents. As they are walking to their demise, Eric looks and sees those workers at the camp I mentioned earlier, chipping away at something with a pickaxe, likely coal. Prisoners at Auschwitz worked for 11 hours from the end of March in 1942. In the summer, the hours would extend and shorten in the winter. Prisoners would perform a variety of jobs, like digging ditches, laying bricks, building roads, and other manual jobs. The list really is too long to cramp in one small section. Speaking of one small section, let's not lollygag any longer and actually continue. As Eric and his parents continue on the path, Eric is grabbed by a Nazi soldier and separated from his parents. Eric's mom begins screaming and reaching out for his son as Eric is terrified for his life. Eventually, Eric does the same and attempts to run to his mom, but he is grabbed by a soldier as the gate closes to a death camp. Eric hasn't given up and is reaching out for his mother, and as he does, the gap between the gate and him begins to close, and the gate begins prying open. What is Eric? Some kind of magnet? Oh man, that's trippy. More and more guards grab onto Eric, attempting to hold him back until eventually someone knocks him out with a gun to the face, and the gate looks like this. I didn't really know how to transition this well with how grim the topic is, but for this scene, I did indeed count every person that I could find on screen, which ended up being 44 in total. However, Eric is taken away, which brings our number to 43. We cut to the not-so-distant future in Meridian, Mississippi, where a young girl named Anna Marie, played by Anna Paquin, is telling her boyfriend about her adventure plans after high school. Bobby doesn't really care though, he's just trying to tap. So they start making out, but Bobby is punished for his lustful thoughts and starts tweaking out like he just took some laced fentanyl. Marie screams, which causes her parents to come running up, and Marie is terrified to touch her parents. We cut again to a woman in a red uniform, giving a presentation about the next step of human evolution. That being mutants. Mutants are just like me and you, except for one key feature that differs us from them, that being the X gene. This X gene reshapes their entire biology, granting them superpowers. These superpowers are typically contracted around puberty or during high levels of stress and or trauma. In the comics, there's a whole bunch of other shit with Sentinels, Eternals, and tribes and shit. I'm not gonna get into that. The Fox movies don't get into that. Let's just move on. This young woman is looking very professional. I was really worried she wasn't going to be professional and show up in something along the lines of, I don't know, just spitballing here, jeans, Grey for instance. I'm very glad she decided to be professional. We just caught Miss Jean Grey, played by Famke Janssen, at the end of her presentation on mutants. And Senator Robert Kelly isn't really concerned about how they work. All he has is one question, that being,
are mutants dangerous?
He gives an example of a potentially dangerous mutant, and his example just so happens to be Kitty Pryde, a mutant who in the comics can walk through solid objects. A bald man is watching from the sidelines and finds a man walking away to be very interesting, so he decides to follow him. Baldy here wants to take this guy home, so he reads his mind to find what he's into, and instead of finding kinky shit, he finds out that it is Eric from the opening scene, and is disappointed that he couldn't take Magneto, played by Ian McKellen, back to his place. We cut to Marie from earlier, finally acting on her getaway trip to go watch cage fights in Canada. She ends up finding the one, the only, the greatest showman, the real Steel, the Hugh Jazzman, James Logan Hewitt, ladies and gentlemen. Logan is kicking ass in this cage match. He has made a real name for himself.
Whatever you do, don't hit him in the balls.
He said anything goes.
Anything goes, but he'll take it personal.
And earned himself some money as well. After the fights are done for the day, Marie sits at the bar and is eyeing up the tip jar. The bartender must think she's some kind of rogue, because he makes sure to keep the tip jar away from her. Logan sits down for a drink, and Marie and Logan sit and watch a news broadcast detailing the United Nations World Summit, which is a meeting of a bunch of world leaders to discuss the current mutant situation mostly. One of the men that Logan beat up comes up to him pissed he wasn't allowed to hit him in the balls and calls him a phony. So Logan reveals that he's a mutant, whipping out 3 metal claws from his knuckles. Bartender ain't having none of that tomfoolery, so he points a shotgun at Logan's head, to which Logan responds with by making his shotgun a sawed-off. Logan hits the open road again, but he starts hearing some weird noises coming from his trailer, so he has to figure out what it is, and it's a teenager. Logan kicks Marie to the curb, but as he starts driving away, he regrets it and lets her hitch a ride. Immediately, Marie starts ransacking Logan's shit, eating all his fucking beef jerky, and even making fun of his living situation.
Wow.
What?
Suddenly, my life doesn't look that bad.
Hey, if you prefer
No,
the road.
no. It looks great.
Teenagers, am I right? They exchange names.
I'm Rogue.
Oh, they're using their made-up names. They exchange names, their mutant abilities, and later on their real names. And these two seem like they're gonna get along just fine. Logan's gotta be dead, right? Logan stands up perfectly fine, a little wobbly, but all the scars on his face begin to heal in an instant. Should've wore a seatbelt, Logan. Lucky for Marie, she did. Oh, unlucky for Marie, I guess. Logan sees that the tree didn't fall from natural means. Not only that, but he starts to smell a familiar smell, and then boom! A guy just pounces on him like a saber-toothed tiger. So, with Logan occupied by Sabretooth, Rogue is still stuck in the truck with no way out. As they are fighting, a storm starts to brewing, and Sabretooth gets scared off by a laser beam from this guy with one eye, looking like a freaking Cyclops. Cyclops frees Rogue from the seatbelt, and they take both Rogue and Logan away before the truck explodes. Logan lays unconscious on a table, while Jean Grey, who we saw earlier, starts moving shit with her mind while examining him. As she's about to stick him with an IV, Logan wakes up and grabs her by the neck. Logan throws her and starts running, doing what everyone at home should do right now and listen to the voices. Logan listens to the voices all the way until he finds himself in a classroom where Baldy is teaching some kids about advanced physics. We actually see a couple iconic mutants here, like Kitty Pryde, who was mentioned earlier in the movie, along with Jubilee, who, if you haven't already seen it, is in Generation X, which I did a kill count of on this very channel. Baldy finally reveals himself to be a professor named Charles Xavier, played by the legendary Patrick Stewart. A little bit of lore here, my mom is a huge fan of Downton Abbey, and the main character of that TV show is Lady Mary Crawley, played by Michelle Dockery. And my mom has said many times that she could hear Michelle talk about anything and could listen to her talk for hours on end. Yeah, Patrick Stewart is my Michelle. If the entire X-Men movie was just Patrick Stewart in a wheelchair talking about literally anything, I'd be happy. After introductions, Storm and Cyclops walk in and we learn their real names are Aurora Monroe, played by Halle Berry, and Scott Summers, played by James Marsden. Jean Grey also walks in, and immediately we are introduced to the single worst part about any of the X-Men movies featuring Scott, Jean, and Logan. That being the stupid fucking love triangle that is going on between all three of these characters. The professor also reveals himself to be the leader of the superhero team that Storm, Cyclops, and Jean consist of, and they call themselves the X-Men. Charles begins showing Logan around the school, and it's just not the same without him switching the objects that he's writing on. During the montage, we tune into Rogue in a class taught by Storm, where we see John Allardyce, otherwise known as Pyro, who has the ability to control flames but not create them. The kid sitting next to Rogue is pissed because he's like, I think Lamplighter's cooler. So he freezes the fireball that John made. Marie is pretty impressed by this, so Bobby, played by Shawn Ashmore, is all like, You think that's cool? Watch this. It makes her rose made of ice. Man. Senator Robert Kelly, played by Bruce Davison, is getting onto a helicopter and discussing more about the mutant crisis with his assistant, Henry Gyrich. Something feels wrong, though. The air feels almost Mystique. Oh, that must be Raven, aka Mystique, played by Rebecca Romijn. Mystique takes Robert to the Brotherhood's secret hideout where Robert is tied up to a chair. Robert begins telling Magneto that if they kill him, that he'll be right about everything he's ever said. Mutants are dangerous and need to be regulated. Now, you might be thinking, oh, golly gee willikers, is Magneto gonna kill Robert Kelly? No, Magneto's not gonna kill him. Instead, Magneto gets into a machine and it begins spinning, emitting a weird aura that makes Senator Robert Kelly a mutant. So instead of killing him, Magneto made Robert Kelly into the very thing that he hated. However, after just this one use of the machine, Magneto is pretty winded. Also, during Magneto's monologue to Robert Kelly, Magneto tells Robert that his assistant that Mystique took the place of was killed when Mystique took his place, and apparently has been dead for months. Back at the mansion, Jean is helping Logan settle into his bedroom. More of this love triangle bullshit keeps happening, with Logan flirting with her, asking her what her powers do, and when she reveals she can also read minds, he asks her to look inside of his, and I can tell you it is not safe for work. All of a sudden, Scott walks in, and Jean scurries away because Scott and Jean are dating. I think I forgot to mention that before. Yeah, basically the whole entire love triangle thing is Jean and Scott are dating, but Jean and Logan just keep flirting. So, yeah, and also Scott hates Logan, like, a lot. That's pretty much his entire character, I'm gonna be honest. And Logan and Scott have a dick measuring contest. After the contest, night falls. Rogue had a nightmare, so she goes to see Logan for some emotional support. Logan is having a fantastic dream about his incredibly traumatic past, and so when Rogue tries to wake him up to tell him about her scary dream,
Help me! Somebody help!
I gotta appreciate the acting from Hugh Jackman here. Anytime Hugh Jackman is screaming for help in like a sad manner, it is always so genuine and so incredibly well done. So props to the greatest showman. Anyway, Rogue is stunned that he would be such a meanie, so he remembers what she did to Bobby and touches Logan's face, and we truly learn what her power really is. Rogue has the ability to steal the life force of anything she touches, or in the case of a mutant, she steals that mutant's ability. So she steals Logan's powers to heal the stab wounds just created by Logan's claws. Logan passes out. Man, first day and you already almost kill one of the adults? That's a rough look. Even Bobby is kind of wondering what is wrong with her. We cut back to Senator Robert Kelly having the time of his life in the Brotherhood's lair. He attempts to figure out what type of mutant ability he has. He has the ability to stretch his body, just like Skin from Generation X, which I did a kill count of on this very channel, which you should check out, link in the description. Anywho, Robert Kelly sticks his entire body through the metal bars and begins hanging on the side of the cliff. Magneto and Sabretooth go to check on him to find him hanging off the side of a cliff, and when Sabretooth grabs him, his suit rips and he falls into the water. Also, Sabretooth gets put in the kennel for accidentally killing Robert Kelly. Or for shitting on the carpet. It's one of the two. However, Senator Kelly doesn't die from the fall, as he washes up on shore later looking like a necromorph mid-transition. And hey, I also have playthroughs of all the mainline Dead Space games with spin-offs and potentially DLCs to come. Who knows? Go check it out. Also, fun fact, Stan Lee is this hot dog vendor in the background. Rest in peace, King. You were the goat. Rogue is feeling a little distraught about almost killing Logan, so it doesn't make it any better when Bobby comes to sit down with her and says, "I saw what you rated Dawn of the Seven on Letterboxd. Get the fuck out of my face." So she runs away. Charles finds out that Rogue is gone, so he uses a big machine called Cerebro. Cerebro is a headpiece that amplifies the brainwaves of the user. This incredibly increases the range of their telepathic abilities, allowing them to search as far as the entire planet. It was built by Charles Xavier and Hank McCoy with the aid of Magneto. Charles uses Cerebro and finds Rogue at a train station, attempting to run away from school. Logan tries to go and retrieve her, but Charles stops him, telling him it's too dangerous, because he doesn't want Magneto to have Logan all to himself. So he sends Cyclops and Storm instead. Logan doesn't listen and steals Scott's bike to chase after her. Logan gets there first and gets on the train Rogue is taking. While the X-Men are trying to get Rogue back to the school, Mystique sneaks into Cerebro and puts a fart jar in the machine, so the next time he uses it, he's got a stink. Logan and Rogue have an actually really nice conversation on the train, talking about some of their past trauma, how pissed Charles will be that Rogue let the toilet seat up, and Logan even gives her some great advice.
You think I should go back?
I think you should follow your instincts.
I love the, father figure Logan is to Rogue. It's a really nice dynamic that I really fuck with. In the end, Logan is able to convince Rogue that Charles won't be that pissed about the toilet seat. Storm and Cyclops are a little behind on what's been going on, and are still trying to get to Rogue when Sabretooth and this other new mutant waltz into the train station. Sabretooth grabs Storm by the neck, and when Cyclops sees this, he attempts to go and stop Sabretooth. However, the new mutant starts hopping around like a toad or something. He takes off the protective visor that blocks Cyclops' optic beams, putting a big ass hole in the ceiling. Storm hits Sabretooth with a bolt of lightning to get out of the chokehold. Sorry for stopping the rhythm here, I just really like this scene. Cyclops arrives at the train station and is waiting in line when a little kid sees him with his visor, and he thinks it's just the coolest thing, and Scott can't help but smile. When the little kid's mother sees that Scott is a mutant, she hurries the kids away from danger. I like this scene because not only is it a really wholesome moment, but it also shows the mutantism side of the Marvel Universe in like a natural state instead of protests and meetings. Anyway, Magneto stops the train in its tracks, and Logan is whipping out the claws. Alright.
That remarkable metal doesn't run through your entire body, does it?
Logan asks Magneto what he wants with him, and it's revealed Magneto actually wants nothing to do with Logan. He wants Rogue instead. Magneto sends a dart into Rogue, and as they are walking out of the train station, what seems to be the entire New York police force is waiting at the doorstep. Magneto really don't give a fuck though. He starts by throwing a couple of cars and then grabs every single gun in sight and points them at each police officer. Suddenly, Sabretooth grabs Magneto's neck and he begins talking about some whack shit like, let them go. And even Toad is in on it too, saying stuff like, they don't deserve it. Magneto picks up that it's Charles immediately though. He knows Charles likes a little bit of choking. Magneto's all like, if you really want to see me naked so bad, why don't you just do it right now? But it's just not the same through a different head, so Charles says no. Charlie starts to take Rogue's body away, but Magneto ain't letting that happen, so he fires one of the guns aimed at the officer. Before the bullet can reach the officer's head, Magneto stops it dead in its tracks. He cocks every one of the guns, threatening to fire them all, stating that he can't stop all the bullets. Finally, Charles caves and lets the Brotherhood take Rogue away. Back at the university, they begin forming a game plan on how to get Rogue back, when all of a sudden Senator Robert Kelly walks in asking for help. They start medically examining him, and Charles looks into his brain to try and piece together what happened and figure out what Eric's plan is. Charles enters Senator Kelly's mind and he begins walking! Holy Jesus, it's a miracle! The events start to replay and Charles figures out what Magneto is attempting to do. Magneto wants to use the machine on a much larger scale and turn the entirety of New York City into mutants. However, when Magneto used the machine, it really gave him a run for his money, so if he used the machine on that big of a scale, it would definitely kill him. Man, if only he had someone who could use his power on the machine and he wouldn't even be in harm's way. Senator Kelly begins tweaking the F out because since he is not a natural mutant, his body is rejecting the mutation and his cells are beginning to break down. So when Storm goes to check on him, he asks her not to go just yet, to stay with him a little while longer. He asks if Storm hates normal people, to which she says yes. She's afraid of them, and Senator Kelly says she has one less mutant to be afraid of before turning into water. Professor X attempts to use Cerebro to find Rogue, but the fart that Mystique put into the machine infects his brain, causing him to fall out of his wheelchair. Jean investigates Cerebro to see what's what and finds Mystique's fart, so she reverts it back to normal. Before she leaves though, she is really curious as to what that fart smelled like, so she puts on the helmet and finds out where Magneto is going. Where is Magneto going? That would be Liberty Island in New York City. Magneto also conveniently chose the same night that the United Nations World Summit is being held. Or maybe he did it on purpose to turn all the world leaders into mutants. It's up for you to decide. The Brotherhood begins setting up their ultimate plan, and Sabretooth stabs a security guard in the back with his claws as he was waving at a helmsman coming ashore who was actually a Mystique. The real helmsman was killed by Mystique. While they are still setting up the machine, the world leaders are taking their places for the World Summit. The World Summit took place on Ellis Island, which, if you didn't know, used to be the busiest immigrant inspection and processing station in the United States. I don't know what that has to do with the movie, but it's just a cool fun fact. Brotherhood continued the setup with Toad, played by Ray Park, squishing not one, but two more Statue of Liberty security guards. Another fun fact, the security guard that they showed being squished is a cameo from writer Tom DeSanto. The X-Men head into a jet, which is typically called Blackbird or sometimes referred to as X-Jet. And another part of the X-Men movies that they kind of changed later on, but I am still not a fan of, is the suits. This was the era when actors were embarrassed to be in a superhero movie, and movie makers were scared to make comic-accurate suits. Scott even makes a comment saying,
What would you prefer?
yellow spandex?
Yes, literally yes, that's exactly what the fans want. Why do you think we got so fucking hype when Deadpool and Wolverine came out, and not only was Logan wearing a comic accurate suit, but he also wore a cowl for the first time in a live action movie. Now, obviously that was 24 years after the release of this movie, but that's just proof that if they would have done that, fans would not be disappointed, they would be overjoyed. The X-Men take Blackbird to the Statue of Liberty, where Logan sets off the metal detector because he forgot that he had AirPods in his pocket. God damn it, Logan. They continue through the statue when an evil clone of Logan tries to get the jump on Scott. Luckily, real Logan puts a stop to it, and the evil clone, who is really just Mystique, closes the door behind them for a little bit of private time. Alright. Scott attempts to break down the door with his optic beams, but before he can, Toad jumps in and kicks Scott out so he can have some alone time with the ladies. I guess Jean really caught Toad's eye because he threw Storm away to spend a little alone time dancing with Jean. Jean does fuck all, keeping him suspended in air so he can throw his vomit into her mouth. After Toad's done with Jean, he goes to finish off Storm, throwing her in an elevator and closing the door behind him. Scott busts out of his imprisonment and lasers off the vomit stuck to Jean's face. Mystique and Logan keep fighting before eventually she runs away, only to later try and get the jump on him, disguising herself as Storm, but Logan can smell Mystique's fart from a mile away. Logan stabs her in the stomach, and here she's believed to be dead, but it's revealed later that she is not. Storm releases herself from the elevator and blows Toad out onto the balcony and delivers easily the best line in any superhero movie ever.
You know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? The same thing that happens to everything else.
And Toad is dead here, so that brings our total to 52 kills so far. The X-Men regroup and continue through the Statue of Liberty, ending up in her head before Logan is stuck in place, unable to move. He suddenly is pinned against the wall, and metal pieces start flying all over, pinning everyone to the wall, taking off Cyclops' visor and faces Logan's hands to his chest, so he can't do anything with the metal claws without harming himself. Logan ends up tanking that shit and frees himself using his claws, so him and Sabretooth can have an epic showdown. Logan pulls off this really sick fucking move, but it just isn't enough. Jean grabs Scott's visor and they do a cool ricochet move to send Sabretooth flying. As Logan and Sabretooth are fighting it out, Magneto touches Rogue, transferring his power to her and starting the machine. Logan frees the group and they decide Storm is going to throw Logan onto the machine with Jean trying to steady him. And if he misses, Scott will blast the thing. So they attempt to throw, and he makes it! Logan jumps down and attempts to slice the machine with his claws, but Magneto stops him. They fight for a little bit before Scott shoots Magneto, giving Logan ample time to stop the machine with his claws. Logan releases Rogue from her shackles, but she is gone. It seems to be over, but Logan takes off a glove and touches Rogue's face, giving her his healing factor, which is enough to bring her back. After the fight is over and New York is saved, we get confirmation that Mystique is alive, after a police officer says a security guard has a pulse, who is actually Mystique. Also, this security guard is played by David Hayter, who did the screenplay for this movie. There's actually quite a few cameos in this movie. The first one we see is the truck driver who dropped Rogue off at Alberta. He is George Buza, who is the voice actor for Beast in the X-Men animated show from the 90s. Another cameo was on the beach, when Senator Kelly washed up on shore, that being Gary Goddard, who directed the 1987 film Masters of the Universe, and was a personal friend of director Bryan Singer. Another cameo, which is like the famous blooper of Spider-Man stumbling onto the wrong set, which is actually in the theatrical DVD release. Yeah, that's not actually a Spider-Man actor stumbling onto the wrong set. It's actually stuntman Scott Leva in a Spider-Man suit. Scott Leva worked on he was the stuntman for X-Men. It wasn't like someone else. It was a practical prank, I think set up by like Bryan Singer or maybe Tom DeSanto. I think Bryan Singer. So yeah, like, you've been lied to. You've been lied to. I'm just going to say that. It wasn't a Spider-Man stunt double. It was just the stuntman for this movie. And he actually... I'm yapping way too much, bro. Let's move on. Back at the mansion, Professor X wakes up from his nap, and Jean just has to take Logan's shirt off again. A plot point that I forgot to talk about earlier, but is now relevant, is that Logan is experiencing some good old dementia, and has no knowledge of his life before his days in Alberta. He has nightmares of his past life, but no real knowledge of who he was as a person, and how he came to have an adamantium skeleton. So, with the help of Charles Xavier, he discovers a military base not too far where they found him, and and goes in that direction to try and piece together his past. Before he leaves, Rogue makes sure to say goodbye to Logan, and I love the almost father-daughter dynamic that they have. It's really wholesome. Logan gives her his dog tag, and the movie ends with him stealing Scott's motorcycle and riding his way to Canada. The movie really ends with a scene oozing with sexual tension, where Eric and Charles play chess in a plastic prison as they discuss the Mutant Registration Act, which will become very important later. And by very important, I mean not important at all. The super erotic and sexual tension-filled war between Magneto and Professor X ended up killing 52 people in total. Thank you so much for watching my kill count of the movie X-Men. I want to keep this outro short, because today is the day that episode 2 of Lanterns premieres. And I'm recording this at like 11:34, but it premieres at 9, right? I've just been editing through the premiere, and I've just been sitting, waiting to be done with the video so I can go watch it. So I'm really excited for that. But there are a couple things that I want to talk about that are actually pretty important. So I'm going to try and keep this short so I can go watch my show. And sorry if it's a little lazy and not a lot of, whatever, if the editing's a little lazy. But either way, let's get on with it. So the first thing I want to talk about is the deadline change for covering all of the live-action Marvel projects. And by the way, this is part 16 to covering every single live-action Marvel project on the kill counts. Part 16 of who knows how many. But anyway, so yeah, originally my deadline for when I wanted to finish the kill counts was by the release of Avengers Doomsday. However, today is August 23rd of 2026, and I have like 3 months to do so. I just don't think it's possible to keep the quality of videos that I want for each and every project. I don't think it's possible to do that in 3 months. So I'm just raising my deadline to the release of Avengers Secret Wars, releasing next year in 2027. And that will give me plenty of time to actually have good quality kill counts for each of the live action projects. So it's not because, well, yeah, it is because I can't do it, but it's because like I could probably do it by the release of Avengers Doomsday, but the videos will be really, really sloppy, and that's just not something I want. I want my kill counts to be quality. So yeah, I think that about covers that. Gaming videos. So gaming videos going forward is, well, I need and want to spend a lot more time working on kill counts, making the scripts, editing the videos. They take quite a bit of time, and so do the gaming videos. Because with gaming videos, it's like 15 hours of raw footage that I have to slog through and cut each and every bit. And I just don't really want to spend my time doing that. Instead, I want to spend my time doing editing kill counts and stuff, working on kill counts, because I would rather kill counts is my priority over really any other type of video. But I still plan on making gaming videos. They're just going to be really delayed. And I think 3 of my playthroughs, my hand was still injured and I was still in a cast. So if they seem really outdated, that is why. I have, I think, 4 or 5 gaming videos, like full game playthroughs, stockpiled, waiting to be edited, that I just haven't been able to work on. And those were released earlier this year. And so yeah, if they're outdated, apologies for that, but that's just the way it is. And they will be coming out a lot later. So yeah. But another thing is I want to, after I finish the game I'm playing through right now, I want to start streaming my games. I have a Twitch. If you didn't know that, I will link my Twitch in the description probably. But I have a Twitch where I plan on streaming all of my playthroughs going forward. this is simply because I think it's just a lot easier, and I think it is a way to not like quote unquote waste my time playing through a game when I could be editing a kill count. I think it's a better way to not waste my time doing that. But I think it just also has a new use for my Twitch. Because at the moment, my Twitch is just bare bone. There's nothing to it. Like, I haven't streamed in, I think, maybe a year. I don't know. But it gives my Twitch a purpose. So that is what I'm going to do. So when I finish the game that I'm playing through now, and I find some time, I will start streaming my game. So if you want to see me play some video games, I teased it earlier in the video. Maybe spin-offs, maybe some Dead Space spin-offs. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe some Dead Space spin-offs. Anyway, but yeah. So going forward, that is what I plan to do in terms of my playthroughs. But again, I also have some other stuff planned. In terms of the delay, I'm sorry. As of recording this, it's been 4 weeks since I released my blade kill count, which is about the same for you guys watching this. But so sorry about that. Sorry for the delay of videos. It's just I am really putting a lot of effort into these videos now, and those take a lot longer. And I don't really have an excuse other than just like I'm not used to having to put this much effort into a video, but this will be the quality of videos going forward, especially for kill counts. This is what I want the quality of the kill counts going forward to be, with obviously some like minor improvements and stuff like that later on down the road. Like this isn't like, I don't think this is my peak of how good I can make kill counts, but this is going to be kind of like the standard going forward. And to make that the standard, I need to put a lot more time and effort into the videos. So they're going to be released a little less frequently. But hopefully not like a month. Hopefully, I'm hoping that it is a video, like maybe one video every 2 weeks or so, but who knows. But again, I also do have a lot of much higher quality videos that I plan on releasing in the future. But yeah, I think that actually is gonna do it for me. If you enjoyed this video in particular, consider leaving a like on it. Or if you are brand new to my channel, you just found me, or you find yourself coming back on the regular, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It's an amazing way to support my channel, and I would really appreciate it. But that's gonna do it for me. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.